I want to transition to some college football. My favorite part of football. My favorite sport. I think you could classify it as a different sport because it plays differently than the NFL. Uh,
Yeah, you
and
could.
so when you look at just looking over the overview of the AP top six, you look at Bama at number one. I disagree with them being at number one. If you're gonna put LSU at number two, we'll get into that. But as you may know, Tua's hurt again. He hurt his ankle against the Tennessee Volunteers, and
Saw
he
that.
will be out for probably about 3 weeks. But we do not know how he will come back. Right now, Bama doesn't need to worry about it currently this week because they are facing Arkansas and they are trash. I mean, whenever you see Arkansas literally do like a basketball jump shot on a fake punt to try and hit a receiver, you know there's something wrong with your football team. And I hate to say that because Chad Morris used to be the offensive coordinator here at Clemson, and he is the head coach. I don't know what happened. I don't know who drew up that play call, but it was terrible. It got picked off predictably. But you don't need to worry about it this week if you're a Bama fan, but you do need to worry about it for the LSU game because you have to worry how is he going to come back, or even should he come back
Yeah,
against
should he?
should
He's
he?
gonna have to. I believe
I
so.
mean, I think he should if they want to win, but if you're thinking about Tua's health as a whole for his future, you do have to ask, should he come back? But I definitely think he will because I think he is a competitor and they want to win the national championship game. But you do have to think when he does come back, how will he play on that ankle and how good will he be? LSU, I thought, even without the injury, was going to be a tough task because it's going to be a shootout. And whatever
Hmm.
defense is able to get more stops wins that game. I mean, LSU has made a complete transition of their offense. It's been amazing to watch Joe Burrow with Joe Brady as the passing coordinator, how they've been able to transform their offense. And that's why LSU, they're at number two. I think they should be number one, at least by the knowledge or the thought process it seems like the AP poll is going through. But so that's why I don't think Bama at number one makes sense. Bama's only faced or beat, I think, about 3 or 4 Power Five opponents by 20 plus or 50 plus. I forget the stat, but I saw a stat about it. I mean, Clemson has beat 6 Power 5 opponents. I'm just saying, they beat 6 Power 5 opponents out of the 7 that they played. All right, no other team has done that. And I get them putting us at number 4 and dropping us because we haven't played up to our expectations. But by that same thought process, you cannot put Bama at number 1. They have been below their standard when it comes to defense. Now, you can blame it on injury, which I think is fair, and they're playing a lot of freshmen, but you
Hmm.
do have to look at how they're playing. Yeah, I mean, you do have to look at what the product they're putting out on the field. LSU has played against Texas. They beat them on the road, which I think is a great win. They've also beat Florida, which I think is a great win. I think Florida is a bona fide top 10 team. And so I think that's an impressive win. So I definitely think LSU is the number one team if you're going to go by how they go exclusively look in this season. I do think you have to put LSU at number 1. I don't even think you could put Bama at number 2. I think you have to put Ohio State, who is at number 3. You got to put them at number 2 because Ohio
Yeah.
State, I mean, they've looked the most dominant as far as how they've looked. Now, they haven't faced the best schedule, but you look at it, they got talent, like crazy talent. I've been telling people, did I not tell you before the season started that Justin Fields was going to be great?
Yeah, you did.
I mean,
Yep.
I had Ohio State in my final top 4 predictions for my CFP predictions, which I also had Oregon. I had Bama 1, Clemson 2, Ohio State 3, and Oregon 4, which I don't think is that bad. Oregon won, or they lost to Auburn on a game-winning touchdown and haven't lost ever since. I still think that's a pretty good pick, and I could prove that I picked those teams by the end of the season. I'll put it up eventually If I
Yep.
could pull it off, if I could pull it off of Instagram. But Ohio State, with the way they played offense and defense, I mean, they have Justin Fields, they have J.K. Dobbins, who's producing more in the run game than he did last year, which I thought was completely predictable. I mean, with the way that Justin Fields plays, is going to put more pressure on you to run the football, and I think that was just an obvious progression of the team. And Chase Young, let me tell you about this. He might be the number one pick of the draft as a defensive end. Have you had a chance to watch Chase Young?
I haven't.
Bro, if you're looking to play, if you are a football player who is trying to play defensive end, watch Chase Young. This man is a bona fide beast. I mean, the dude literally looks like the Predator. I mean, the dude's got the dreads swinging, in the air when he's coming after the quarterback. He's near the top in the country in sacks. I mean, man, that is a good defense that also has Jeff Okudah, which is going to be the top corner probably taken in the next draft. And the transformation they've had on defense with that defensive coordinator coming over, or co-defensive coordinator coming over from Michigan, he has completely helped change life for that defense. They're playing more zone, which has allowed them to stop opponents more instead of going with more of a man-to-man scheme where you saw Ohio State's defense was lost. And that's why I told people Ohio State was going to be better this year. Them going to a zone concept has helped them tremendously. It's going to allow them to play more free and allow them to make plays. And so I definitely think that Ohio State should be number 2 over Bama. If you're going by the thought process, it looks like they're trying to use for Clemson, who is at number 4, which, again, if you're going by that thought process, fine. Clemson hasn't played up to the standard, especially with Trevor Lawrence. But I will say this. We've played an underrated schedule. I get that the ACC is down, but we can't help that. We can't help these ACC teams recruit, all right? We schedule our conference games. We try to schedule pretty hard out of conference because we scheduled Texas A&M. I mean, we tried. So it's not like we're trying to schedule bad teams. It's just it's how the ACC is. But we still have faced 6 out of the 7 teams that we played have been Power 5 opponents. We have not faced an FCS school, which is something that none of these teams can say. And until the North Carolina game, we had won every single game in our winning streak, which is 20, I don't even know, it's like 22, 23 at this point. We had won every single game by 14 plus. Should have been 20 plus, but Texas A&M wanted to score a garbage touchdown with 5 seconds left, which I was furious about when I was at the game. But, I mean, you do have to give credit to that. We had one close game. I repeat, one. We had that fluke game against UNC, and people just completely started to doubt us, which is fine because I think that it will only motivate this team. So continue to drop them in the rankings. Please, please keep talking trash about them. It is only motivating us, and it's only making us better. Just saying. Florida State, Florida State, they learned from that. Yeah, they learned how that was after the bye week since they wanted to doubt us after the UNC game. And so just keep on doing it. Just keep on. Then you got Oklahoma and Penn State. Oklahoma, they're a legit contender for the college football playoff and to win it for once. I mean, they always have made it, but that offense is still just as prolific with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is one of the top in the Heisman conversation.
He might win it now that Tua's out for 3 weeks.
Yeah, he might.
He's probably locked to win it.
I think it depends on what happens in the LSU-Alabama game, because if Joe Burrow is able to go out there and beat Alabama for the first time, and it seems like forever for LSU, then he's definitely top. But Jalen Hurts, he's been doing it through the air, on the ground, and what makes Oklahoma a contender this year and actually able like to maybe win the championship is the fact that they have a defense this year that's actually decent. I mean, last year they had one of the worst defenses I had ever seen, ever. I mean, they were towards the bottom. I mean, it's no exaggeration because they were near the bottom in almost every single major statistics that you could have for a defense. And so they were winning in spite of that. And they challenged Alabama. I don't care them going down 28-0. It was 45-34. They just got off to a slow start on offense, and it killed them because they didn't have a defense that could go out there and get stops. They have that now. Part of that is because they've moved Kenneth Murray, who I've always said was a little overrated because he had talent, but they were playing him at Mike. And at Mike linebacker, you need to be able to stack and shed, is what we call it. You have to be able to shed blocks, and he's not good at doing that. So they moved him over to will linebacker and started to blitz him more now and use his athleticism to his advantage, and it's taken him over the top. He has been an elite linebacker this year, and it has taken their defense to a decent level. They're not elite. I think they're in the 60s now for defense. But 60s, that's like doubling where they were from last year. They were in the 120s. There's 130 FBS teams in those rankings. They were 120th. And yet
that's terrible.
They still made the playoffs last year with that.
And the offense was so good.
And so their offense isn't as prolific, I will say, probably through the air as it has been. But it's close. It's close. And so with that offense still producing almost the exact same way it usually does, and you almost doubling your defensive production, that's dangerous. That's dangerous. They might go undefeated this year and make it into the playoffs. I didn't pick them to make the playoffs, but we'll see. We'll see. They're probably going to make it in over Oregon. Even though I would think Oregon can win out, it won't matter because the Pac-12's, just like the ACC's reputation, and whether it's fair or not, you can argue, the Pac-12's their reputation is down the drain. So them going 12-1 and winning the Pac-12 championship won't cut it against an Oklahoma team that's got a 13-0 record or a 12-1 record. It just won't.
Yep.
And then Penn State at number 6. I don't have much to say about Penn State, but Penn State, I thought that, when they went up 21-0, I was thinking about, man, this team is really good. Then they allowed Michigan to come back and almost tie that game, and probably should have tied that game up with Ronnie Bell dropping the game-tying touchdown. But so I still need to see Penn State produce more. If they beat Ohio State, obviously they'll jump up. So they still have everything out in front of them. That's all I really have to say about Penn State. Pretty good team. Don't think they'll make the playoffs, but it is what it is.